is an ace entrepreneur, co-founder of a profitable unicorn and mother to 2 children. She is Ghazal Alagh, co-founder and chief innovation officer, Honasa Consumer Limited. And today in this Women's Special, we will discuss Ghazal's journey as an entrepreneur, her relationship with money, her investments, and literally everything else. So without further ado, let's take this discussion forward. Ghazal, good evening and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining in today. And let me just begin with this. How is Ghazal Alagh doing? How is life for you right now?
Hey, Kavita, thank you for having me. I'm doing really well. I think I am the ideal kind of an enthu cutlet that you call a person to be who's building, who's painting, who's raising kids, who's working on creating more brands. I think I'm doing okay.
Ghazal, I think you are doing more than okay. But then let me just ask you this question and let me just take you back to that day when this thought maybe crossed your mind and you just put your foot down and you said to yourself that, Ghazal, nothing doing, I want to become an entrepreneur. This is what I want to do. This is the calling of my life. How did this happen? How did Ghazal Alagh become the Ghazal Alagh that the world knows her today?
So that day was actually way back in time. It was about 8 years back, to be very honest, much before Mamaearth came into being. I think I always had this vision of myself leading a company. And while I was growing up, I think I thought more from taking up an ideal job perspective, growing within roles, taking up a CXO position. But 4 years into the job, I realized that I'm the kind of person who is a little bit of risk taker. And with a number of ideas that were buzzing in my mind, I eventually found it really difficult to hold myself back. Of course, back in time, it was easier because it was just me and my husband, Varun. We were in a space where we could take risks. I started 2 companies. I think one of them was dietexpert.in. This was back in 2012, which was basically giving customized diet plans to consumers, not charging the consumers, but charging the brands that I was recommending on the platform. Did that for about a year and a half, realized that this was not going to scale as well. I think the idea of doing this digitally was too early, where people were still wanting to go to physical stores and sort of interact with a person, and that was the kind of experience they were looking for. Then the second stint for me came in place in 2014 when I tried to pick up my passion for painting back up. I trained myself. I went to New York to take up my art education, came back, started selling my works nationally, internationally. And simultaneously, while I was painting, I started this small school of art called Being Artsy, which was basically training kids on the latest or the most renowned styles that artists in the past were using. So we would have like a Picasso workshop where we were talking about techniques that he picked up, etc. So that was my second startup, and Mamaearth was the third one. While Being Artsy was still in place, I think the story with Mamaearth was just very personal. It started as a problem that I was facing with my son, and being a first-time mother, you have that very strong mom guilt, right? That anything that's going wrong with the baby is because of me. And while I was not able to give him comfort from the itching and the rashes, etc., with the help of doctors, we realized that it was actually a trigger from the products that we were using. And the moment we stopped using certain set of products, that problem went away. And that sort of just opened my eyes up. What we realized was that while outside of India, there were certain guardrails around ingredients that could be used in a baby product and were not allowed to be used in baby product. India back then did not have any such guideline. And that made me really uncomfortable. I think between Varun and I, who's also my co-founder, and my husband, there were these constant nagging conversations that were going on, right? Like, koi kuch kar kyun nahi raha hai iske bare mein? Why are these bringer brands not listening? And why are they still using ingredients which they themselves are not using in the products they are making outside of India? So I think, and Varun just very casually one day mentioned कि कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है तो आप कर लो. And that was the time when I set my foot down and I said, nothing else matters more than my son. Not just my son, but generally babies in India don't deserve to go through this pain or don't deserve to use ingredients which are not meant for them. Why are we doing this to those little creatures who can't speak for themselves? And I think that was the moment when I said, everything aside, but this is something that I'm going to pick up. Of course, I had no idea how would this pan out. Mamaearth as a word or a brand name was also not in our mind. It started with a simple research to just figure if something like this, which is creating natural toxin-free products for babies within certain guardrails of safety, was it even possible to do in India or not? What was the price point at which, because India is not a market which can pay like a large amount of premium for baby care products. So all of that research is what it started with. And then eventually in December 2016, Varun and I came up with Mamaearth, which is 6 baby care products. Back then, of course, the vision was that we are going to be a baby care brand. We are going to come up with products that people and mothers especially use on a daily basis. The vision was that if we are able to help 10,000 parents in India, we would consider this venture to be successful. So started as small as that. But eventually with the warmth and acceptance that we got from our consumers, we were able to scale. They showed us the way forward. And now, Mamaearth operates in all categories: baby, adults with skin, hair, beauty, color care as categories. And now it's not just Mamaearth has one brand, but we also have 5 more brands in our portfolio under Honasa, which is the parent company of Mamaearth. So yeah, it has been a very exciting journey. It's just been 6 years. We are still too early, but we are going to keep listening to our consumers and crafting brands and propositions that they really relate with.
All right, so Ghazal, let me just get this right. You are a working woman, you are a mother, you also pursue your passions, you are a brand on your own. You do realize this is not a common story of every woman in India, though how much we really want this to be a story of every home and every woman in India. But then what it took to take such step towards your calling? From where did you get this confidence?
I started out, it was very, very difficult. I will be very, very honest. It took me a while to get to a place where I could manage both, say, kids, home, and work together. And especially when you're getting into entrepreneurship, you're sort of giving up all the certainties and comforts that you had in life, right? And both Varun and I were doing really well. But when we started to put our foot down and start Mamaearth, what we were saying was that fixed monthly salary that was coming in stops coming in now. The kind of support system that we had at home with helps and maids, etc., would need to take a cut because there was no salary coming home, right? And with that, we had a 1.5-year-old baby to raise. And of course, babies also have certain expenditures which are additional, which you're not as used to, and you figure them out as they grow. So I think all of that uncertainty was one of the first challenges that we had to encounter and overcome. More mental than actual for us is what we realized, because when you have less, you learn how to operate with less. More importantly, I think what that led to was that our capacity to fail actually really reduced. So we knew that either it is this or a year back, if it doesn't work, we go back to our job. So that was the fallback plan as well. I mean, we were like very clear, 1 year is what we are going to give to this experiment, to this brand that we were creating. But we're so glad we took that step. I think another challenge as a woman that I faced back then was working with a 1.5-year-old baby and not having any support system. So maids were let go. We were not living with our family back then. And that actually, while it was a short-term pain, I think in the longer run, today I look back to that time and I see how much it has taught me in terms of calendarizing, planning, being disciplined with schedules, having an organized calendar of kids, because that's what then empowers you to take up your roles and responsibilities with work during those intervals of time. So I think it has been an evolution for me as well. You would see me like in a messy bun with kid in one hand and phone in the other hand, about 4 years back, trying to manage both, to eventually realizing that this was not possible to do, because your kid demands equal amount of attention from you as your work, and none of them are worth giving up on. So the way I started working, I think, around those uncertainties was better planning, working my work schedules around the sleep schedules of my kid. And we did not have an office space, so I was working from home. That luxury did not exist. And as a woman in business today, I know it's much difficult to work from home than to work from office. Office is such a sane space with people in the same mindset and frame, and getting things executed is so much easier than working from home, where everybody thinks you're available, but mentally you might not be because you're working, right? So those were the kind of challenges that did come my way. I think I have grown as a person. I have set in a lot of processes and systems. Even today, I have my second kid, who is now 1 year, 1 month. As of today, I'm a much better mother, much more patient and organized, and I lose my temper lesser. So I think I've also come a long way in the last 7 years.
Right. So Ghazal, you still have a lot on your plate, but then as you also just mentioned and narrated your entire struggle and the story, you've learned most of the things on the job, and it was your goal, your aim, your zeal to make something happen and to do something for the society. But in the end, now when I ask you, do you really feel empowered? And if you do, in what way?
See, I'm one of the few people who I consider lucky, because I have had the opportunity to develop that support system around me. And I think that when you're able to take your own decisions and make your own choices, because you have a strong support system around you, is what to me is feeling empowered. I mean, at a lot of times I see people giving up on large opportunities or ideas that they have, or stuff that they want to do, because they feel they don't have the right kind of support system. While when we started out, I also did not have one, but I invested a lot of time in creating a support system, which included our parents, which included our friends and family, which included my team, because there will be time when you need to give more time to your kids than work. And at that time, the team comes in to support you. A very small anecdote: when we were just 1 year into business with Mamaearth, and we were a set of 5 young mothers with kids. All of us had kids under 5 years of age. And there were times when there were school holidays. And of course, work can't stop, especially during summer vacation, right? And at that time, one of the systems that we developed was bring kids to office. If we can't work from home, that's fine. Let's bring kids to office. All of us 5 moms brought our kids to office, gave them a separate corner with coloring books, colors, whatever, food, etc., whatever they needed. While in the adjacent room, we were conducting a meeting, talking business. And I think that is empowerment to me, when you come together as a tribe and you say that we understand each other's problems and we are creating a support system. That is what helps you then take your own decisions, take up more opportunities, and not give up on something that you really want to do. And I think last 5 years, I've actively invested time, effort, energy into creating that ecosystem for myself, which has helped me immensely. I think one of my strongest pillars of support.
Right, now let's talk about your money. How are you with your money? And by that, I don't want to know about your investments in Mamaearth, but then your money in terms of your investments, your rapport with your finances.
I make my own money. I take decisions around my own money. Uh, I I'm 100% aware of where my money is going and into what assets and how they are growing over months and years, and what's the long-term strategy and what's the short-term strategy. And I think that's really, really important, because in my mind, that's the definition of financial independence. I've seen a lot of people around me, while they're making tons of money, they're not taking decisions about their money. It's mostly the men of the house who have a very strong point of view on where this money should be invested, what asset should you buy, which property or non-property should you park your money with, and that's something which I really feel that um, the women need to step up and take responsibility of, because it's not just about making it, it's also about managing it. And I think from times immemorial, women are the ones who've been managing household expenses and managing it really well. If you have a budget, you ensure everybody gets what they want, but within that budget. So if that's like an inherent nature of women, why don't we do that when we have larger amounts of money? Again, I would definitely say I still have a lot to learn, and I am on it. But not just making money, but even investing, and like decisions regarding your money should be in your hand.
All right, but then what was your first investment?
My first investment was in a house that was in my name. That I think is the dream of every person in India, to have a house in their own name that they're living in. Apart from that, I think, I mean, um, you know, of course, angel investing is something that I very actively do, and that's like an interest area for me. That's where a large amount of money also goes in. And apart from that, there are funds, there are cars, and just one car because you need it to travel, and I didn't want to take a loan. But
All right.
it depends. It depends. Every year is a different strategy depending upon the amount of money that we have. But I think my excitement towards money goes when I'm investing in other startups, and especially women-led startups.
All right, so that's interesting. What are the women-led startups that you've invested in, if you can just talk about them?
Oh, I've put in a lot of interesting startups for that matter. I think one of my recent investments is in this brand called the Leap Club, which is it's basically setting up an ecosystem of women who can help each other and also help companies get the right kind of talent to deal with the gender gap that usually exists, which is where, a lot of companies will say that we don't have the right number of CVs, etc. So this company is ensuring that they're not just creating a community of support, but also helping women get back to business wherever they can. I think another startup that I'm really proud of is this brand called Fable Street, run by Ayushi. This is a clothing startup, more into fashion, etc. And now she's coming up with a house of brand strategy. Very exciting. A lot of them, I think I can go on, and I will have, I would love to talk about each of my investments, but 80% of my portfolio is actually in women-led startups.
So, Ghazal, the women entrepreneur you meet now, as compared to when you started, what's the difference that you see?
I think the difference is massive. When I started out back in 2016, I still remember trying really hard to look for people who had gone through a similar stage as mine, because uh, I needed help. And to come up with the right kind of names or to get that support was so difficult, because there were a handful of names where women were running like a decently sized company, to today, where I see women not just starting businesses, but growing them sustainably, doing really well at a lot of places, running them better than their male counterparts. The number of women that you can now go to take mentorship from has significantly increased. Funding to women led startups has significantly gone up, and I think in India, because the denominator is so large, anything to start showing up in numbers in terms of statistics takes about a decade's time. And I think we are 5 years from when we will start seeing this in number as well. So I'm very, very optimistic. I've seen this segment grow like crazy. I'm so hopeful, and I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of this a system where I am in a place where I can mentor a lot more women, and that's also a passion that I have. So you'd rarely see me say no to a woman reaching out and saying that I'm doing this and I think I'm stuck and I need help, and I'll always be there. Need a 5-minute or a 10-minute call, because I lacked that. I did not get it when I was at that phase. So I think that is something that I very strongly connect with.
We need more women like you, and in fact, more power to you for that. Last question, and then we wind up this discussion. Your tip for all the entrepreneurs who are watching you right now.
I think my tip to all the entrepreneurs would be, take that first step, take that leap of faith, because unless you do it, you would not know how would it go. And it's easier to live with a failure than living with a regret. So don't stop yourself. Take the first step, experiment, do it, see what's working and what's not working. And then eventually decide what is it that you want to do with something that has been keeping you awake all night, because that's the passion that entrepreneurs have for the ideas that are going on in their mind.
All right, with that, we'll wrap up this discussion. Thank you so much, Ghazal, being on the show and helping all our women investors and women entrepreneurs to just take that step. Thank you so much.